Oh, folks, this is an incredibly special opportunity we have today here at Sew Well. I have a longtime friend and an amazing designer, one half of the team at So Kind of Wonderful, joining us to tell us all about an incredible sewing project coming. I'm basically speechless. I don't even know what to say. So, Helen, please take it away. Hello, my dear.
Hello, hello. Yes, I'm feeling a little lost without my other half today.
Well, that's okay because I fumbled the intro anyways, but you know, this is just the way us quilt makers do it sometimes, right?
Okay, it's all right.
Where is that other half, Jenny, of So Kind of Wonderful?
You know, she is in Utah today, and our schedules, we wanted to do this when we were together last week, but it just didn't work out. So the real thing that happened was I had the quilt at my house, and we only had a small one at her house. So...
And because this is all about the Floral Felicity, and I'm not going to be able to say that too many times fast. I got to be careful with that one, right?
I agree.
Because it's all about this wonderful Sew Along quilt project that So Kind of Wonderful has come up with. We really wanted everybody at home to be able to see the full quilt. And the gals were so sweet to send me the mini quilts that I have here behind me. But before we dive into the business side of the quilt and stuff, you gals have been so busy. What's been going on?
Oh, we are continuing to design notions and fabric and patterns, and we do Zoom classes. I don't know. We've all just learned to be so much more versatile in the last few years that we have found so many different ways of, sharing quilting outside of that in-person experience.
Yeah, I feel so blessed that Deb at Stitchin Heaven came up with the idea of doing Sew Well, which is about sewing and a little bit about wellness, because I think many of us found a new side of wellness through COVID and sewing and crafting and things. And for those of us who like to design, I think it was actually a really motivating time in a lot of ways because we knew we had to get out there and serve our communities, right?
Yes, totally agree. Yes. So anyway, I think we've all just learned new skills, and this is a good example that we are on a Zoom call and it's recording, and then it will live somewhere else on the internet.
Right. And we all know Jenny could have joined us remotely, but the truth of the matter is, and we didn't want to say it in front of her, Helen does all of the work at So Kind of Wonderful. And Jenny is just kind of there to pack patterns and stuff bags and stuff, but Helen really does most of the work. And so we figured we give Helen this opportunity. Jenny, I'm in so much trouble, aren't I?
I'm going to see just half a brain today, because usually the others, yes. We finish each other's sentences. When I forget something, she goes, "Oh, remember, da. So.
Yeah, when I first saw you two on stage doing your trunk show in Sisters, I just absolutely loved it. And I couldn't figure out if it was a shtick or if it was real, the way you two interacted and designed together. But it was just lovely. It was so heartfelt and it was just so organic. That's when I think I fell in love with both of you. And then, of course, watching you doodle on all of the placemats at lunch and stuff was also a lot of fun.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's not planned. We've actually tried to plan stuff when we get up there, and it doesn't work. What works is that sister relationship where there's a lot of love, but there's that little bit of tension that pulls on it sometimes because, you've got this huge suitcase full of experiences together. So, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting because I am an only child, and a lot of times I'm kind of designing on my own, even though I'm supported by these incredible teams, but I'm still by myself in a different state a lot of the times. And I think about you teams and think, man, that must be incredible, but I didn't think about the tension side of it. So,
but the tension is also where it pushes it, and the quilt we're talking about, we had a lot of these blocks. I have a little... Do I have one here? I have a little notebook I carry around, and it's just one you can buy at Barnes & Noble. And I'm always doodling in it, and I had oodles of little flower blocks and the bunny and, we talked about for a long time, like making this quilt. And so I kind of pulled it together. I converted the drawing into the computer, and then I send it over to Jenny, and between us, the colors all get tweaked, and she started filling in extras on the design, like the flying geese and the little, we call them pavers, the little rectangle strips.
Oh, sure.
Yes, and so and we needed another filler block. So it's really that one brain plus one brain kind of makes this 5-brain person, where it's better because we work together.
I see that in the work, and you started diving into the quilt, so let's go there. I'm super excited to hear all about Floral Felicity.
Oh, good.
There's so many questions I have, and I know you probably have an elevator pitch for me ready to go, but like I just, my brain is going too quick, and so I need to know, because I haven't been paying 100% attention. You designed the fabrics, correct?
We did. We actually had the quilt design pretty, the basics figured out. And then within about a month of getting the design figured out, we started designing this fabric. So the back and forth on pulling together, well, red is a good example. So we have that really bright poppy red in the quilt. And everybody has favorite colors, and we never say red is our favorite, even though we love red because it makes everything else look incredible. It's like that energy. And we didn't have a red in the fabric collection. So Jenny and I were playing around, and we're like, we want to do this ladybug in the quilt. We need a red. She's like, we do. So then it pushed us to work up this really fun red poppy fabric. So
and I'm glad you mentioned the ladybug block as well. My daughter graduated from high school a couple days ago. When I drew one of my fabric lines, she was an infant in a little bouncy seat sitting in my studio, and we called them ruby bugs because they kind of had her little face on these ladybugs. But I don't know that everybody understands exactly what they're looking at yet. So I have to break this down, because I'm blessed to have a lot of folks that stumble across my videos. They're like, what is this guy doing talking about sewing? So they click play. So thank you for being here today, everybody. You and Jenny at So Kind of Wonderful have a really great set of curves, if I may, and it's your quilting tools. So folks, a lot of these shapes that you're looking at, these crazy curves, and they're super simple. So I don't even know how to explain it, but these are all things that you can create with your specialty rulers, right? And or regular stuff. So can you walk the folks that have never heard of So Kind of Wonderful, or some of the easy curve rulers and stuff you're doing? Can you tell us, just give us a basic on that, so that maybe they see the blocks differently?
Yes, in fact, let's talk about the B block, because that's a really good one to show. So you want me to get up and go walk to the quilt and point?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, here is the B block. So the B has these two curves here, but it actually is made up of two squares that have a curve going diagonally across the square. And then when you put those two squares together, it looks like you're making this really funky curved shape. And then above it, these are two squares with a curve right in the middle going from point to point across the block. So then we sew 4 squares together, and that's what makes our B. So it's not where you cut out the body shape and then you applique it on. Everything is a pieced curve, and we always square up our blocks, and we never pin or find the center. We just have the curves going away from each other, and then as it feeds in the sewing machine, bring the curves together.
Wow. Now, so for the B block, are there 2 different size, can I call it a ruler? Is it a tool? Is it a template? What do you call?
It is a ruler.
Okay.
Tool, notion make, a template maker. So it has This is what it looks like when it's packaged at the store. This is the Wonder Curve ruler, and all our root tools come with a pattern. So there's a pattern included that you can make so that you can learn to use the tool. And then once we take it out of the package, it has orange, blue, and black lines on it. And then that allows us to make the blocks different sizes. Because if you use your blue line, you will make kind of this big chunky curve on the bunny.
Got it.
If you use the orange line to make the same curve, you're making the foot, which you can tell is a smaller block, and we're using less of the curve, but there's only one curved slot to cut in. And if you make it even smaller, it would be this little blue flower on the hollyhock, and that is 4 squares sewn together to get that shape.
Just an engineering genius. I love it.
We have other rulers that we learned a lot by using those, but the most common question we had from makers over the years was, how can I make this block larger or smaller? So that was our beginning question when we designed the Wonder Curve ruler, was how do we make the same block different sizes?
And if I remember correctly, and I don't know if it was like the catalyst, but about the point when I saw you gals maybe 5 years ago at doing the trunk show, it kind of seemed like at that moment your design ideas were starting to go, oh, it's more than just a curve for making a quarter circle. It does make a bee block. It makes these wonderful flowers. It's these shapes. It's a Christmas tree. It's a Santa Claus. It's an ice cream cone. And I remember you gals being so excited about all of that. So it has exploded what you can really piece together with this ruler set. This is amazing.
Yes. And what's really fun is every block you see in this quilt is using the same tool, even though we're getting different types of looks. You know, like here we get this nice curve in the lotus, but you know, the bead looks totally different. These long, skinny petals. So it's just, how are we combining squares, rectangles, are there triangles? Like, how are we combining these to get different looks to that curved block?
And then as a designer, I guess this is kind of a question really important to me, selfishly, I guess. I hope it's something that everyone else is interested in. But when you're auditioning fabrics, because it's patchwork, but it's organic shape, you're probably dealing with auditioning a lot of different colors to get the right amount of contrast. Like for the bunny, I didn't see it the same until I opened up and stood a distance from, but the bee stood out right away. So it must be very fabric specific, or I mean, how does that work? Is that why this whole project has come together so nicely? Teach me some more, please.
Yes, I would say that when we're choosing fabrics to sew the curves, if you don't have enough contrast either in color or texture, the curve will disappear. So that's something we learned early on, and we did a lot with solid fabric in the beginning because I think we were more confident in how that would eventually look. Because we could guarantee, oh, this nice crisp curved line. And as we become more confident in what looks we can pull together, and as we design fabric, one of the things that we put in every fabric line are a lot of background neutral fabrics. So the neutrals you see in this quilt, there are 5 of them. They're actually part of the fabric collection cottage cloth, because that's the hardest, we found that was the hardest part to get the right palette for the focus prints. So that's a big part of our fabric designing story, is that we always include these neutral background fabrics so the focus ones have a place to live, and so that curve will show up, because we're trying to, you know, emphasize the pattern and the fabric and the piecing.
Well, I also noticed in looking closely at the fabrics themselves, like your backgrounds are maybe like little mini stripes or mini florals or mini plaids, but what I actually really dig is when you get into the prints, some of the backgrounds, like in this blue behind me right here, there's a mini stripe first and then the floral comes in, and both the stripe and that floral are other neutrals that are just standalones. And I really like the way you've coordinated the elements of design, because a lot of times you'll see a neutral is maybe an afterthought and it's just kind of a we'll put it together, but I feel like it looks like your neutral was your base, and then you brought a couple of those bricks together to make a stronger foundation, and then you put the really amazing sunroom on the top where all the plants grow and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And that's really what we're doing. Nothing kind of lives on its own. Once we find an element, we try to cross it over, and that's kind of what pulls these different, very different fabrics together, so that it might look like you curated this fabric over the course of, you know, 3 or 4 years, saving that piece of fabric.
Scrappy in a really beautiful way. I mean, I'm not a scrappy person, but it doesn't necessarily look like it came from one line. And I was gonna say I was embarrassed and ask your forgiveness, but being that I already owe Jenny an apology for that rude statement I made earlier, so now here's my rude statement to you. Is this your first line for Free Spirit, or have you done other lines and I wasn't paying any attention?
Great question. This is our 3rd collection with Free Spirit.
I'm so sorry, Helen.
That's okay. We design 1 collection a year, because we are also notion and pattern designers. And so to split that time, you only have so many hours. So, and fabric takes a bit of time.
You're being way too humble there.
So 1 a year is a really good fit for us. Our first fabric collection came out in 2020. So you know what you were doing in 2020. Yeah, it actually shipped to stores in 21. Our next one came out the following year. So the first one is called Mod Cloth. Second collection is called Boho Cloth. And third collection is Cottage Cloth. So you can see our theme is this, and they all are starting to, if you still had some from the first collection, it would work with this one. So
thank you for that.
They all work together, even though the color palette is shifting just ever so slightly, but you can still tell, oh, these are the same people. This feels like the same thing.
I love it when designers do that. That's going to be so great to see this all develop. And again, I apologize I wasn't paying attention, but I was paying attention to other stuff at that point, right? So
we understand. In fact, yeah.
If you will, I hate to get jumping around, but I know that I get long-winded in these interviews because I just want to chat with my friends, but folks are waiting for more information. So tell me, please, about the actual quilt program. It's a sew along for a year with Free Spirit. Is that what's going on?
Yes, so it's a quilt along. It will last a year. The sewing part starts in July, and on the first Monday of each month, let me grab my stack of what do we have. On the first Monday of each month, we are posting a tutorial to our Floral Felicity Facebook page. And that Facebook page is open to anyone. You don't need a special invite. You don't need to be let in. So if you buy the Floral Felicity pattern and the cottage cloth fabric and you are working on your own, you can participate. If you're with the shop, they can participate also and direct you to that page. But that first Monday of each month, we will have tutorial videos on what you're working on for that month. And then on the second Monday of each month is the live Q&A. So Jenny and myself, or just me, or just Jenny, we will get on and we will answer questions live that any makers have that are actively working on their blocks, and they're like, I can't make this one work. What what do I need to do? So that's will be the second Monday. Third Monday is a post your progress. So post something you're working on with the Floral Felicity quilt. Even if it's just, I laid out my fabrics, I'm getting to it. Take a picture, post it. Because the fourth week is a giveaway to anyone that posted progress on the third week. And it's either So Kind of Wonderful doing a giveaway or Free Spirit Fabrics, who is our fabric company that we work with.
And they were the ones who provided all of the kits, if I understand correctly.
Wow.
So the cool thing about this, and again, I want to first off support the whole community of sewing and quilting out there. Yes, I work at Stitchin Heaven and I'm blessed to be part of that team, and we have the things we specialize in and other shops have the things they specialize in. But this is one of the reasons we were so excited about this, is you can get your kit from Stitchin Heaven or any other retailer that's participating, and you can follow along with Jenny and Helen and Free Spirit with what they're doing, which I think is a great way where the fabric company is really supporting all of the quilters out there. Now, what happens if somebody doesn't find out about this, say, till August and they're 2 months late? What happens?
Not a big deal. I would say just start the month you show up.
Okay.
And then what you'll find is like, oh, I sewed my thing together already. Let me go back and catch up on month, 1, or because start where you jump in.
Interrupting you to answer my own question, and I'm terrible at this, but yeah, that's right. That makes sense because all the fabric and the pattern are shipping at one time. So you're not waiting for the next fabrics for the next block.
You might, it depends. So Free Spirit has put the fabric in 3 bundles, and they're going to ship throughout the year 3 times.
Yeah, sure.
If you bought the pre-cut kits as a shop, so only the shops could buy the pre-cut kits because Free Spirit Fabrics only sells to businesses. They don't sell to individuals.
That's what we have at Stitchin Heaven.
Right.
Yeah.
So Stitchin Heaven bought a bunch of these. Now there's also shops that are only online, like So Kind of Wonderful is an online store also.
Right.
And we only ship to our customers. We don't have any storefront they can walk up to us. So we actually shipped the whole kit in one batch. But that meant we had to cut our own kits, which was fine. We do this all the time. So, but that way we got to ship one time so that the maker isn't having 3 shipping costs. Whereas if you're at a store, you're usually walking into the store, picking up your next set, going home,
and the prizes will be offered online. They're not being offered in the shops where you started your participation, right? That's all through the participation through the Facebook group.
Exactly. So you just post on Facebook, Free Spirit will ship it to you, or So Kind of Wonderful will ship to you. Because shipping is something we do really well because we're an online store.
Prizes are amazing too, because I've seen what Free Spirit does as prizes, and I'm sure you gals have got something pretty awesome up your sleeves as well. So this is going to be amazing.
Free Spirit has lots of fabric. You're going to get fabric. Like, shocker, right? And then we have patterns, and what's really fun is the tool. Where's the tool? The tool, the Wonder Curve ruler that is used. There are, about 50 patterns that use the same tool. So you're not limited. It's not a one-use tool. So that's very fun. And if you see this in your shop, you will see there's an orange button on the tool. That orange button says WCR pattern. So every time you see one of our patterns with the orange button, it uses this tool. So they're all color-coded.
And another fun thing, in case maybe you jumped in a little bit late or you just don't sew at the same pace as the rest of us or something, is on the wall beside me are 2 mini quilts. So the blocks break in. Are there different instructions, or is that something that people will kind of do their own improv and make their own mini quilts out of these?
So when we designed the quilt is about 100 inches by 80 inches.
It's
So-
96 by 101, but I don't want to correct you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, it's a larger,
It's the one I took.
it's a larger quilt, and not everybody wants a really big quilt. So when we were working up the instructions, Jenny and I were like, well, okay, you don't have to sew it into one big quilt. You can take the exact same blocks in the exact same layout, and I'll just flip my pattern around, and it shows it as 4 individual quilts. So,
Awesome.
same quilt, it just, here is another look, because you might want to make them as baby quilts or gifts for friends or wall hangings, or make one, add a little border and make it a throw. So the pattern is very versatile.
A young lady actually who's having a garden themed birthday party coming up this weekend. This would be a great gift for something like that. And you know, the neat thing as I'm thinking is you might start in on it and then an opportunity like that arises. And so there's the mini quilt. And now you're like, well, I guess I'm making 3 other mini quilts. And then you'll find opportunity as you go along, because that's what happens in the world of a quilt maker is you're like, oh, somebody in need of a quilt, somebody celebrating, somebody, you know, processing something, you know, this is what we do with quilts. This is great.
So another thing we thought of as we were, like, Jenny and I have been sewing for, I don't know, 25 plus years. So over the years, we've all done that quilt along where you make a block and then it goes in the bin and you make a block. And by the end of the year, you've actually lost some of your blocks. So the way we've constructed the pattern is that when you sew, and I'll show you month 2 because I know it's in camera shot here. When you sew month 2 together, you are actually making the bunny, the lotus, these flying geese, 2 bees, and this flower. So when you sew month 2, or in the book it's called zone 2, because this isn't always a month project, you actually sew it together with the little setting pieces so that nothing's getting lost. So if you sew month 1 is right above it, and month 2, and then you make month 3, right there you sew those 3 together. So by the end of September, you will have a 1/4 of your quilt done, and it'll be sewn together into, Rob, you actually have it behind you.
Right?
Yes.
It's this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so right there you can say, all right, I'm doing mini quilts. And you can go ahead and work it up, quilt it, add your binding, and that's it.
Really, really cool, because I just had that experience where I was concerned about losing parts and pieces as I was traveling around with a quilt. And everything you're telling me, I'm just more and more impressed. It sounds like you keep listening to all of your students and solving the problems that they find in their quilting worlds. And this is just really incredible. I am so impressed with you two. This is awesome.
One more thing we could talk about.
Yes, please.
The month of June. So
Okay.
Facebook, Floral Felicity Facebook page is already active. We have already posted 3 videos for June. The first one is, hey, welcome, this is Floral Felicity, gather some supplies. The second video is all about the pattern, what is in the pattern, how it's laid out, the different features. The third video is cutting fabric for the next 4 months. So you're getting this shipment of fabric, and rather than cut the whole quilt, you're only going to cut 4 months worth. But to be efficient with fabric, you need to cut more than just 1 6-inch square, you know. So we're cutting all of it that we need for the first 4 months. And that's included in your pattern on page 72. It actually shows you, and I'll zoom in on the camera.
Coding and all of that?
Yes. So it's in color. You can see how to lay out your fabric, what you're cutting from each strip of fabric. It actually shows you cutting diagrams.
I like it when patterns do that too, because sometimes if you're new to quilting, you might not realize, oh, I started with a 4-inch strip and I got 4 blocks out of that. They're 4x4s. Next measurement's a 3 3/4 or whatever. Yeah, then you slide it down, and I love those diagrams like that. That's just amazing.
So Jenny and I have both made this quilt. We made it in October. And hers is actually at a shop. Mine is here for us today. And when we were making our own, we realized that we didn't have any way to keep track of our fabric after we cut it. And we were like, oh, pause. So we literally stopped and went and made labels, because it's too big of a quilt to have to sit and write out everything you just cut. So in the book, right after the cutting instructions, we have labels. And the labels are set up so that you can just download them and print them at home, or you can go make copies of your book so you're not tearing apart your book. And so we've already made month 1 or zone 1. So this is zone 2. So here are my fabrics, and it tells me these are all for the lotus block, zone 2. So that's my label. They're all pinned together. When I start making this, that's how they're being managed. Of course, you will have your own organization system, but we show you what we are doing. And here is my zone 1 or month 1 is all sewn and put together.
And I love, love, love the labels idea, because you're right. We often end up, they download those off of the So Kind of Wonderful website?
Yes, we actually talked about just creating a tab on the toolbar on So Kind of Wonderful, Floral Felicity Quilt Along. And you can just easily find it there. Right now it's living on the Floral Felicity pattern page, but we'll have it live several places. And yes.
That is really impressive as well. I think it just really goes back to what you were telling us at the beginning of the video about how we learned to use technology to serve our community of quilt makers. And these are some of the things, like you said, a downloadable, printable, color-coded label system. Come on.
I mean, how easy is that? Instead of handwriting, oh, this fabric, and you cut a swatch. The fabric is actually printed on the label. A little strip of it runs down the left side of every label, so you don't cut off your fabric. It shows you. Anyway, yes, nerdy people trying to figure out stuff.
Thing that would make this project easier, but I gotta say it would make it a lot less fun. And that would be if you could just buy it finished, because you have made this project perfect for everybody to play along, follow along, sew along. This is incredible. I mean, I am so excited to, and especially because it gave me an opportunity to reach out and kind of touch up with you ladies and see what you've been up to. But I'm so impressed.
So yes, Floral Felicity, it's a hard name to say, but the more we say it, it gets easier. I know, I'm like, Floral Felicity. Who would have picked that name? But actually it was a contest. Like, all right, let's name our quilt. So yes, it was a little mini contest. And I think Felicity means extreme happiness.
It should if it doesn't, so.
Yeah, so this is supposed to be a happy quilt and just all the feels of, grandma's garden. That was the inspiration behind it. What do we find when we go to grandma's garden? A little bit of everything going on.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, I won't put you on the spot and ask you what you're working on next, of course, because I want to focus on this. It's a year-long project, and we all get to be blessed by it and all of the input you're putting in. I want to personally say thank you, though, because I know how much work it is to be, your calendar is now scheduled around live video shoots and recorded video shoots and making sure things are edited on time, and technology doesn't always work the way we say it does and things. And so you ladies have put a huge commitment forward for this year, and I just want to say how much we as a sewing community appreciate that. You are creating incredible content, and I am super excited. I'm going to follow along just as part on the Facebook group just to see what you're all doing. I can't commit necessarily that I'll be sewing them myself. Maybe I'll get a couple done because they look like fun, but I just want to watch you all.
You can, the pattern, Also has instructions if you just want to make a single block. Those pattern sizes are on each block so that if you can't participate in the full quilt, you can get the pattern and make the ones that work for your situation.
Well, you know, and I know we don't need to sell the program. It's awesome. But as I'm sitting here looking at my shop behind me and then the shop behind you, the flower along your left side, right side, right on the edge would be a perfect just border. Oh yes, over and over again. Whereas with mine, where's mine? We're all backwards. This right here, I think would be a radical inlay where you could go like this as a border and then just keep the vine going and then give it a block and then start it again. If you had other floral fabrics, or if you want to make this even bigger for whatever reason, you're going to make it larger than 96 by 101, by the way. And I mean, but yeah, I was also impressed with a lot of the mini design work in there that could be used in so many other quilt projects. Like you said, how many different blocks did you say can be made with the ruler set or the ruler?
We have over 50 patterns for just that ruler. We have,
Right?
yes, so every one of our piecing rulers has multiple patterns that uses that tool. But you could just pull out one block and make it. You can repeat that one block. If you're like, I need more organization, pick your favorite block, make a bunch of them. If you're doing a baby quilt, make 4 of the bunnies. You know, they can face opposite directions. That can be a baby quilt. Like, there are so many possibilities with sampler quilts, which this is a sampler quilt.
But it just reads as a, like you said, a super happy quilt. You don't see it much as a sample. It's just a beautiful design. So
Well, thank you. Thank you. We thoroughly have had, we have so much fun designing the fabric and the quilt. And now we've made the quilt. And now we get to support everybody else making their version of this quilt. So it's just a very fun experience for us.
I'm going to sign us off with this. You know, I hope I'm not putting my foot in my mouth out there or, you know, frustrating any of my other friends that are designers that are also talented. But I think you ladies at So Kind of Wonderful have the best curves in the quilting industry.
We appreciate that. Yes. Love your curves. We always tell everybody that. Love your curves.
What am I saying? If we run out of kits at Stitchin Heaven, we'll try to get some more on order. I don't know if that's even possible or not at this point, but we'll make sure all of you can participate. But we do really encourage you to support your local quilt shops. That's one of the ways that all of us quilters can really continue to keep doing what we do and love what we do. So support your local community and your online communities out there too. So
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Rob. This is so much fun to just talk Floral Felicity because it's at the fun stage.
Oh yeah. Oh, the work is done now and you get to just enjoy the fruits and flowers of your labor.
Right. Yes.
Awesome, my friend. Okay, well, please give a big hug to Jenny. Tell her I'm sorry I missed her again. And I am just so excited to be participating shop in the Floral Felicity project. And thanks again for walking us through everything you gals have designed.
Oh, you are so welcome.
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really helps support our channel. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Hit the little button to be notified every time we go live or do a new video for all of you. And here's one from the past I think you'll really enjoy.